Hello and welcome to Bitch That's My Kind of Worship, a podcast by and for radical hotties the world over. My name is Lucy DK and I'm an artist and writer obsessed with building the new world. This podcast is here to guide my fellow revolutionaries as we step into a collective healing journey that centers truth, justice, and returning to our limitless power. I will share practices, guidance, and conversations to keep your internal fires lit so you can let the old world crumble without fear and step into creating the future you were born for. It is our duty to fight for our freedom, and it is our duty to win. Hey hotties! Today I wanted to speak about making love to inconvenience. And the word and the concept of inconvenience has been very alive for me since a couple of weeks ago when Anastasia, who is someone I'm in community with, had shared a very activating voice note in a group that we are part of about how important inconvenience is in these times, in this world building. And it's something that's been very present in the way that I'm living at the moment as I come back into what it actually means to be a community member, to be in community with others. And it's taken a lot of presence to be able to allow myself to transform in some of these ways. And so I wanted to just start speaking into what it really means to make love to inconvenience, to understand that inconvenience is essential, is something that is actually often a light, a little light leading us to where we can become more united with others. And the reason that I frame it this way is because in a lot of our culture, especially Western culture, convenience is king, right? It's like everything that we can get quickly, everything that makes our own individual pursuit of wealth, power, whatever it may be, anything that makes that smoother and simpler and quicker, anything that makes us more productive within the system, anything that improves or supports our ability to be a means of production becomes paramount, becomes useful, becomes valuable. And we actually start to become people who don't know how to put the needs of the other as equal to our own. And we operate within a system where our convenience is so often built upon. And I mean, this is so ironic because I just had to pause my recording because there was a big knock at my door and I had not been hearing somebody calling me because they needed a key that I'm responsible for right now on the farm. And so something that I have just been thinking a lot about is how much it actually takes the body to be able to remember its place. And there is something very, very beautiful about the transformation that happens where initially what you are experiencing is so much this sense of convenience as light and beauty and ease, and inconvenience as heavy and annoying and hard. And that's a thing as well that I think I've been thinking about is the reality of community, right? Like we can romanticize and idealize community, but ultimately being in community is often very annoying. And it can be annoying to feel like, oh my gosh, like I have to do these things, I have to be present, I have to help these people, whatever it might be. I don't have my own space, or I don't have my own time, or whatever that looks like. And what I've been really praying over and asking to be shown is how can these things start to change and transform within each one of us. And a really beautiful part of that for me has been that when I'm able to come into my heart, and often this does require pouring into myself first, right? I think that is always the first rule of loving your neighbor as yourself is that means you also have to love yourself. And so to be able to give from that fullness and actually being able to adjust and transform what that fullness looks like and what you need in order to make it possible. Because definitely something that I became very attached to when I was very early in my spiritual healing journey was this sense of, okay, I've learned these specific practices in this specific way, and I must do my practice in this way, and it must take this much time. And if I don't do it, then that means I'm not going to be able to be a functional good community member today, and nobody can really blame me for that, right? It's kind of like, let me be isolated for hours doing my yoga, and like then I can come out and be hopeful. But before that, like I cannot do that. But I think in maturing and growing into my spirituality, but also my adulthood and the responsibility of adulthood has also been about understanding where that spiritual work can really come in as resistance, as things that feel hard, as things that feel annoying, and to actually understand that the spiritual work becomes the work with people, the interrelational work, the work of showing up in the house and figuring out how to be present when you feel annoyed, right? Or how to be present when you're a bit tired, how to be present and how to move with love in all of those scenarios. And the real magic in all of these things with any spiritual work is that when you bring yourself to the place where you're able to expand your capacity to hold that and to be in that moment and to be loving, even when all of you is like, all I want to do is be in bed right now watching Netflix alone, and instead I'm here doing all of this. When you're actually able to sink into that presence, to call on all of your spiritual support, to call on God, the universe, to be like, be with me, allow me to be loving, allow me to be kind, allow me to remember that the needs of the other are just as important as my needs. You know, when we can actually sink into that deep teaching, which is such a core piece of so many religious traditions, then we actually start to see the real magic that occurs, because the thing that once felt annoying becomes the thing that brings us the most joy, the most pleasure, the most connection. And I've seen that time and time again when I'm resisting, when I'm annoyed, when I'm just like, and like not really present, and I'm there, but wishing I wasn't, and I'm on my phone or whatever it is. If I'm really not engaged, but I'm just there only in body, but not in heart, not in spirit, then it is exhausting, it is annoying, it is frustrating, it does make me feel, you know, like how I don't want to feel. But as soon as I really sink into that presence, that acceptance, that love, that gratitude, that prayerfulness, and that asking for help, that sense of, God, like, be with me in this, like, help me be present, show me where I'm selfish, like, show me where I'm contracted, show me where I'm not kind. And again, these things come in, and we start to see, and we start to just feel the eternal peace that comes in when we realize that we are really offering of ourselves, that we are really offering from the deepest place. And just like magic, all of those things, the energy that we need to do the task, the love that we need to meet that really annoying community member with, the words that we need to say to be able to inspire good action from those around us, all of these beautiful magic interrelational skills, they become possible through that practice. And so something that I've been really thinking about is the fact that we have the capacity to transform all of these pieces of life, and that is a big part of our new world building. And it's very easy to have this like idealized version of like, I want to be in my room alone and just like have my whole independent life, and I don't really want anyone to rely on me, and I don't want to rely on anybody, and I'm going to be self-sufficient. And I feel like we've lived in a culture where that was all created for us, and it's like, okay, there's a supermarket and I can go and get my food, and like I can order like an Uber like person on a bike to come and like bring me what I want. You know, there was even this funny story that I heard from somebody I met when I was in Cape Town who was telling me just about this party that he was at, and this moment where, you know, things were like getting fun, getting crazy, and they just wanted a lighter or something weird. I don't know, like it was like something tiny. I don't mean that a lighter is not that weird. It's kind of a party essential, but like just like a one small thing. And just suddenly the strange feeling he had coming over him of like, we're ordering like somebody to motorbike a single lighter to us in like a torrential storm, to like come to this like mansion and simply bring a lighter. And it's just a small example, but there are so many ways that we have become so disconnected from the world around us. It's like we can't even start a fire. You know, we can't even start a fire. Anyway, I digress, but it's like this sense that what does it really mean to be in community with each other in a world that is going to transform very rapidly, and in a world where we might really need to be relying on each other for survival again in a way that we haven't in very many years. And there are so many cultures around the world where this is part and parcel of life. This is how things have been done for generations. It's how things are done today. It's how people move through the world and move through life. It is this interdependence. It is this, I have this, you have that. This is what we have together. Like, this is what you can do. This is what I can do. And even in my time, the last few weeks, there's been so much of, okay, let's pick people up on the way, let's take them back, like, let's get this food, like, let's go in this direction. And so often, you know, my efficient brain is like, but we wanted to go here, and now we're on like a 5-hour diversion. But when you again remember, well, if the need of the other is equal to my own, then surely it means that if this person needs to get here and I can help them get there, even if it's annoying for me, I'm going to do that, right? And it's easy to see that as simply like, almost like that Christian ethic of like, you know, you do it because you're kind and you want to love everyone or this. But it's very much survival thinking. It's very much, I know that if I do that, then when they have, you know, killed their latest chickens, slaughtered their chickens, then maybe there will be some chicken that I can eat with them, you know. And it's like all of these little things. And so understanding that community is interdependent and that there are so many things that we can all rely on each other for. And something that has also been super activating for me lately was something actually that came through Grace Pilled on Instagram, who is going to be on this podcast really soon, which is super exciting. She posted about the fact that if people around you aren't being great with conflict, it's kind of on you to be the relational leader. It's like sometimes it's like, yeah, you could be like, oh, like nobody here knows how to manage their emotions. Like nobody here knows how to manage conflict. Like nobody here knows how to really interact with each other in a way that feels good. And it's kind of like, okay, well, looks like it's on you. And sometimes we resist that responsibility, right? But I think especially those of us who are really called into a path of revolution and world building and transformation and change, so much of that work is going to happen with people and going to happen exactly where we are, in the homes that we're in the families that we're in the communities that we're part of. And what healing gives us the capacity for is to be that person who can be in that space and who can lead people in that work. And it's not overt, right? Like, it's not going to be like you're saying to the elder, like, let's just like sit down and do some relational work right now. Like, it's not that. But it's like, what can you model through your presence? What can you adjust through the questions that you're asking, through the way that you're speaking to people? Like, what can you offer through thinking through a situation from a consciousness of love, right? So often we are operating in a survival consciousness, And even if we're in a survival context, I feel like what we're challenged with now is how can we be present in a survival context but operate from a love consciousness, right? Is that possible? And I think it is, because I've seen people do it all the time. But this sense of, okay, actually, let me really zoom out, see the whole situation, see everybody who's involved, see how we can create solutions that really support everybody, right? And that it's not about somebody winning, somebody losing, or like this dominating philosophy that we've had handed to us so much from Western culture, and the way that Western culture's colonial tentacles, as someone I was speaking to put that lately, have really wrapped themselves around so much of the world. But that like dominating sense of wanting to get ahead, wanting to have the most, wanting to be the one to survive, right? Almost survival of the fittest. But it became this crazy extrapolated, I don't know if that's the right word, but this like exponential version of that. And to then come back into this sense of, okay, can we actually operate from Ubuntu, like from collective love, from the sense that what I have, you have? And is it possible? And so like coming back to that as the spiritual work, that as the practice. Can you make love to inconvenience? Can inconvenience transform within you? Can the annoyingness of community become can the annoyingness of community become the nourishment of community, become the way that community nourishes you through the ways that it pushes all of those parts of you that are internally selfish, that are scared of interaction with other people, that are self-isolating? All these pieces of you that have kept you feeling safe, kept you feeling protected, kept you feeling like the person who is going to come out on top. Can you actually allow those pieces to transform within you? Because the thing is, until they transform within you, there's no hope of them transforming within the world. And so often, especially as activists, especially as revolutionaries, we're constantly trying to change the external world, like the world outside of us, the world around us. We're constantly like, this needs to change, and this needs to change, and this needs to change. But ultimately, the external is simply the manifestation of what we as a collective have created from the truth of who we are internally. And when we think about that and we realize that until we as a collective have transformed ourselves within, have transformed those parts of us that are so selfish, that are, and it's not that selfishness was ever bad, it's human. It's human, like it's humanity. Like I think so often we also apply so much morality about this, and we have a conversation about this on the episode of the podcast with Faye, who talks about becoming an inner work baddie. I'm not sure if it's going to come out after this episode or before, but it's amazing and you'll find it. But what we talked about was this energy exactly of, wow, like until we transform ourselves, we are just creating more of what is inside us, and the morality that is applied to those things of, wow, it's so bad that we're so selfish, and like, oh, it's so bad that these world leaders are so selfish or so bad. But actually, like, it's very human. Like, that's what the point we had evolved up to, right? It's like still that survival consciousness. Like, it's that sense of, I want to win. It's like animals. Like, we don't see animals in the wild and be like, wow, that's so bad that they're killing that other animal. Oh, that's so bad that they just stole that other animal's food for themselves. We're just like, that's nature, that's life. But somehow when it comes to humanity, right, we have a different expectation. And the reason we have that different expectation is because we evolved. Like, we have beautiful potential. Like, we have hearts that can recognize each other, can move towards love, can see the absolute beautiful unity that is possible within each of us. And this moment that we find ourselves in right now is the next evolution of consciousness. Like, it's the next moment where we get to decide as humanity, as a species, as a collective, who we're going to be. And we have the beautiful potential, and for me at least, so much of that comes through the spirituality of who we are as humans, of our connection to source and our very conscious connection to source when we have the desire to move into that energy. And it's really funny also with the synchronicity of these things, like even through this episode, there have been so many little moments where people have come to get me or to ask for something and all of these things. And something that I'm just reflecting on right now as I speak this is the fact that so often we believe, or we have a belief, that inconvenience means certain things become not possible. So an example of this was, I even really was having that feeling of, wow, it wouldn't be possible to do my creative work in this community space, because usually when I do creative work, I am alone, I'm in my own space. It's like this whole thing, you know, and that's been so much of my identity as an artist as well, as like retreat, like be alone, like be cut off from people. And it's not that I don't think there is place for solitude, that I don't think there is place for aloneness and beauty in that aloneness. But what I'm really being shown at the moment is how much potential there is for so much of the things we have created alone as part of our pursuit of our individual desires to start becoming collaborative, to start becoming pieces that are infused with all of the things that we're experiencing within the collective. And it's kind of funny now when I'm thinking about it, when I'm like, well, it would be actually quite crazy that I could only do this, you know, in a different space, when so much of what I'm sharing right now in this episode is from these learnings that I'm having living in community. And so actually even just the discomfort that I felt in that, the discomfort of, wow, like all these things that come up, right? Of like, will I be heard? Like, will I have uninterrupted time? Like all of these things that made me contract, to actually sit in them and to let the discomfort or the so-called inconvenience or whatever it is transform what I actually create. And with that, see that anything that is supposed to be birthed through you will be. And so I think there's this negotiation as well, and especially in collectivist cultures, of what does it mean to really claim your own self, your own energy, your own voice. And it's not easy to do that in a lot of contexts, especially when we can be so used to silence and to silencing certain parts of ourselves in order to belong. And it's always that balance, right, with the individual versus the tribe. And it's like, in order to belong to the tribe, we have to follow the rules of the tribe. And if we don't, we start to shame ourselves because we're scared that we'll be cut off. And so again, survival, in order to stay with my tribe, I must present like this, like, and I cannot express these other parts of me. And so I think, again, this evolution, it's the integration, again, of these pieces of what does it mean not to isolate and go down a total, fully individualistic path of this is me, this is what I care about, my voice is like the most important. All I'm going to do is think about my own needs and desires and priorities and dreams, and everything else can kind of fall to the wayside, and everybody needs to do that for themselves, and we're all just going to run up against each other and compete and survival of the fittest. And versus also, what does it mean to be on the other side of that and just be fully in a collectivist or community culture where it's like, my needs are not important at all. Like, all that matters is that I fit in with everybody around me. I cannot voice anything that doesn't suit the collective. I need to dress the way everybody else does, or I fear being mocked or shamed or whatever it might be, right? There are all different ways that conformity is enforced in a lot of these cultures and in a lot of these ways. And I think, again, it's like our generation has this really beautiful opportunity to bring together the best of both worlds, in the words of Miley Cyrus, in the words of Hannah Montana. But it's like you get the best of both worlds. And what does it actually mean to mix and integrate these beautiful potentialities? Like, again, is this the next evolution? Is it possible to have a community, to have a collective where the beauty of each individual expression is truly celebrated, is truly allowed, is truly radical, you know? And in that, we can kind of exhale, we can relax, and we can not have to actually cling on to any identity at all. Because that's the thing with the spiritual path. What you ultimately realize is all of these identities are, yes, ways that we've been shaped in the world and ways that we've experienced the world, but ultimately on a soul level, none of them really exist. And so we've been given all of these different experiences so that we can see all of these sides of humanity, of God, of love, of pain, of suffering, of joy, of ecstasy, of pleasure, all of these different colors of the rainbow that we get to experience, that we get to taste, that we get to fall in love with, that we get to forgive and cry over and break apart inside of. But ultimately, when we return to source, we realize we are all of the same power. We are all of the same energy. We are all of the same essence. We all came from the same place. And that's the most beautiful thing about staring in the eyes of another human being, and however different they are from you, suddenly realizing I am you and you are me. And that one truth actually informs why the need of the other must always be equal to the need of our own, because they are us, we are them. When I ignore your need, when I suppress your need, when I avoid your need, when I pretend your need doesn't exist because all I want to do is serve my own, it's not actually you I'm hurting, it's me that I'm hurting. It's me that I'm abandoning. It's me that I'm betraying. It's me who will cry over this. I was about to say on the day of reckoning, but that felt very religious. But when it comes to soul development, when it comes to evolution, when it comes to truly transcending and being the best, most beautiful, bright, glorious versions of ourselves that we can be, that is what we're tasked with realizing the other is not the other at all. The other is us. And so wouldn't we want to love and feed and clothe and house the other? Would we want to leave the other out there, abandoned, lonely, without what they need? It's only ourselves that we're hurting. And we've seen that in the world, how interconnected everything is. You know, I felt it so much in the microcosm of Cape Town as a city, where there is such deep and divisive inequality. But that sense that even the people who seem to have, right? People will talk about the haves and the have-nots, but the people who seem to have the most, even their experience of life is sitting upon this foundation of other people's suffering and bitterness and resentment and tears and guttural hatred, you know, because you can only repress, oppress, enact violence upon people for so long before everything that they are feeling seeps into you, seeps into your house, seeps into your family, your community, the way that you feel when you go to sleep at night, the way that you have to have an electric gate around your house and dogs, and the way you go to sleep scared because you know deep down that what you're doing is not right, right? You know that people have reason to steal from you, to hurt you, because you are sitting on top of their pain, like you are sitting on top of their rupture. And you're partying and ordering a lighter. And I'm not saying this with judgment, because I've experienced all parts of this. But it wakes us up, right? It awakens us, and it allows us to see that inconvenience is a deep and beautiful medicine. So I want to thank my priestess, Anastasia, for giving that offering, just that concept, that word of inconvenience being so essential to our new world building. And I wanted to offer that to you, my hotties, my beloved hotties. And I will see you next time. Love you. You've been listening to Bitch, That's My Kind of Worship. And you can follow Radical Hotties on Substack for more where that came from. See you next time.